On Monday night, the Wizards beat the Detroit Pistons to get their third win of the year. While this game solidified Detroit as the worst team in the NBA, Washington has the bleakest future in the league. This franchise hasn't had a 50-win season since 1979, which was also the last time they made it past the second round. Despite being run so poorly, nobody really mentions it. They aren't in the limelight like the New York Knicks and James Dolan used to be, so we don't pay attention to all their mistakes. However, they've been so awful this season that it's hard to ignore any longer. This organization has been mismanaged for far too long, and it's put them in the position they're in now. In today's video, I'm going to be highlighting where the Wizards have gone wrong, why they're the worst franchise in the NBA, and if there's any hope for them going forward. Before we get into it, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 500 subscribers by the end of the year, and your support goes a long way. With all of that being said, let's get into the video. In June of 2010, Ted Leonsis became the majority owner of the Wizards. Washington had the #1 pick in the draft that year, which they used on John Wall. Over the next few seasons, Washington put together a solid young core, drafting Bradley Beal in 2012 and Otto Porter in 2013. However, this is where things started to go wrong. In an attempt to build around Wall and Beal, the Wizards gave up picks for veterans. They traded a first-round pick in 2014 for Marcin Gortat, a 2016 first for Markieff Morris, and a 2017 first for Bojan Bogdanovic. Bogdanovic left Washington after the season ended, and the pick they traded for him became Jarrett Allen. While these trades made the Wizards better, they weren't game-changing moves. During the John Wall era, the team never won more than 49 games, and they won just 3 playoff series. They tried to rush their rebuild, which put a ceiling on how good the team could be. I blame Leonsis for this, because he's never been a fan of building slowly. In 2019, Leonsis said that the Wizards will never ever tank. Knowing this, it's not surprising that Washington began giving up picks in just Wall's 4th season. Another issue with Leonsis is that he's failed to recognize problems until it's too late. Ernie Grunfeld was hired as the president of basketball operations in 2003 and kept that job until 2019. Grunfeld made a lot of bad decisions in that role, and fans wanted him gone long before he was fired. If the Wizards hadn't kept him around for so long, maybe they could have built a better team around Wall and Beal. Tommy Shepard was a decent replacement for Grunfeld, but he was clearly limited by ownership. The team was mediocre from 2019 to 2022, yet they gave a supermax extension to Bradley Beal. Because it was such a huge financial commitment, there's no way ownership didn't influence that signing. This was such a head-scratching move because it cemented Washington as a middle-of-the-pack team, while simultaneously hurting the trade value of their best player. If the Wizards had traded Beal a few years earlier, they could have gotten a better return for him than they did. This shouldn't have come as a huge surprise though, because again, Leonsis never believed in tanking, and he's always wanted to push for the playoffs. For a franchise like the Miami Heat, this strategy has worked for them. However, Miami is a free agent destination, and they have championship pedigree in their front office. The Heat have a strong culture and identity, which is why they're successful year in and year out. In the Wizards' case, they have no identity. This has been common knowledge to everyone except Ted Leonsis. In an interview this summer, Leonsis said this about the new front office. What's impressed me most is that they're identifying for me that what we're missing most is an identity. This was obvious for years, but Leonsis never seemed to realize it. The team hasn't been in contention since the 70s, their attendance has typically ranked in the bottom half of the league, and as a result, they aren't an attractive spot for free agents. While we can't directly see it, owners ultimately shape the culture of a franchise. The Wizards have looked lost ever since Leonsis bought the team, and that's on him. If all of this wasn't enough, Ted Leonsis is the founder of Monumental Sports, the media platform that owns the Wizards. This is problematic because it really censors what's shown and talked about on their broadcast. A prime example of this occurred last season. When the Clippers came to Washington last year, it was John Wall's first game back in DC with fans in attendance. For a player of Wall's caliber, it's customary to give him a standing ovation and a tribute video. However, the Wizards broadcast was told not to air that tribute video. Ted Leonsis' son Zach is the president of media and new enterprises for Monumental Sports. His justification for this decision goes as follows. Our instruction to talent is to play the ball where it lies. Our fans are smart and they get it. We don't need gratuitous comments on either side of the ledger. Quite frankly, this is just sad. This organization has been bad for a long time, and John Wall made them relevant. He was a 5-time All-Star, he made an All-NBA and All-Defensive team, and he was really fun to watch. For nearly a decade, he gave Wizards fans something to be excited about, and that alone is worth commemorating. On top of that, Wall also did a lot of good off the court. He organized events to give school supplies to kids, he donated money to fight homelessness, and during the pandemic, his foundation gave $600,000 to at-risk families in Washington. Wall was a great player on the court, but he was an even better person off the court. The Wizards have done nothing since Wall left, and if they cared about the fans, they'd highlight his greatness on their own broadcast. It's one thing to be a poorly run, irrelevant franchise, but it takes major incompetence to disregard someone who meant so much to the team and the city. This is a horrible look for the Wizards, and it makes you wonder who would want to come play for them in the future. This is the worst run franchise in the NBA, and because of that, it's going to be a long time before they're good again. Despite hiring a new president and GM and restructuring their coaching staff, the Wizards still look awful. Obviously, they're just 17 games into their rebuild, but I doubt they were expecting to look this bad. They give no effort on defense, and while they put up a lot of points, they don't do it efficiently. Washington has the second fastest pace in the league, however, they're ranked 22nd in offensive rating. Their best offensive player is Kyle Kuzma, but at 28, he doesn't really fit this team's timeline. Jordan Poole was expected to score a lot this year. Unfortunately, he's gotten off to a really bad start. When the Wizards traded for Poole, many people thought he could be a building block for this team, but now he just looks like a bad contract. The only players I feel good about on this roster are Bilal, Denny, and Gafford, but I don't see any of them becoming stars. Maybe guys like Johnny Davis, Ryan Rollins, or Patrick Baldwin will show potential at the tail end of the season, but that's not for certain. To put it simply, Washington just needs to embrace being bad. They should move on from Kuzma and Tyus Jones while their value is high, and try to get as good a pick as possible. At 3-14, the Wizards have the third worst record in the league, but the Grizzlies, Bulls, Blazers, or Hornets could easily drop below them. In recent years, Washington has routinely picked in the middle of the lottery, and it hasn't yielded the best results. I fear that once again, this team will take too long to make a move, and it will end up hurting them. When you're as bad as the Wizards are, you can't afford to keep drafting 8th or 9th overall. If they hold on to Kuzma and Tyus, there's a chance they leapfrog some of the other bad teams in the standings. However, if they completely tear it down, they can acquire some assets and position themselves to get a top pick in the draft. Washington has been an awful franchise in recent years, and they need to accept that. If they commit to building from the ground up, they could have a successful rebuild. It will take a while, and they'll need some luck in the lottery as well, but the Wizards can turn this around. Anyways, that's going to be all for today's video. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. With all of that being said, I'm out, and I'll see you in the next video.